And at the same time, we want to kind of up the beer and food scene. Like, it shouldn't be something that's seen as bar food. It's
pub food Friday.
Exactly.
Welcome to TapThatAZ, the podcast that brings you the fascinating stories behind the exploding Arizona craft beer scene directly from the people who are making it happen. I'm your host, Eric Walters. In this episode, I sit down with Dustin, Mike, and Tammy from Helio Basin Brewing Company. Dustin and Mike opened up this place and then hired Tammy on as the chef, and they are doing some awesome stuff, making some great beer. The facility is awesome. The brewing setup is right in plain view, behind some huge open windows. They've got indoor cornhole, and Tammy is just killing it in the kitchen there. So when I went, I left it completely up to her. I said, give me whatever you want me to eat. I don't care. I don't care what it is. Pair it up with something that you think is going to be good. She's huge on beer pairings. So she gave me, I think you say it's ceviche, awesome seafood dish, and she paired it with a great citrusy IPA. Man, it was amazing. So the little issue in this episode, I ran out of memory card partway through the conversation. I looked down at the recorder. We were just so deep in the conversation that I looked down and realized it hadn't been recording. So luckily I had a camera with me. I switched out the cards and we continued on where we thought the recording might have stopped, but there's a chunk that's missing here. So you'll notice I'll interject when the time comes, but this is a great interview. These guys were awesome. So let's tap into Helio Basin Brewing Company. Okay, so I'm at Helio Basin. You guys are on, 40th Street?
Yeah, 40th Street in Thomas.
Thomas, okay. So I'm here with Dustin, Mike, and Tamara. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This is pretty awesome. Yeah. So you guys, this started in college, right? The whole beer origination.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours, and we were in the same fraternity. We lived together. That's how we met, Dustin and myself. And we had one of the guys in the fraternity who was a science major, and he was able to finagle the college to be able to do a brewing class. And so we were able to learn in school, get credit, and that's kind of how it all started. We started doing it in our kitchen and moved from there.
That's crazy. So the school funded your guys'
They absolutely, they did. They said you had to brew once a week. We had to save enough beer for them for the faculty picnic at the end of the year.
Nice.
And then they would also buy a bunch of other craft beer at the time, and they would do a barbecue. We were invited, and then they would give us all the leftover beer too.
Yeah.
But all we had to do was run microbial samples in the bio department.
Okay.
To show that we were actually doing some sort of work.
Right.
And they were able to fund it. And yeah, the class actually didn't start until after we left.
Oh.
It wasn't actually a class. It was just kind of the starting of it. And now they actually have that as a course at the college.
Gotcha. Because of your guys' hard work. Now they
hard work, dedication. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough gig. So that's crazy that they funded that.
Yeah.
It really is. And you guys, we were talking earlier, where you guys went to college was only an hour away from where I lived.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Pennsylvania. You guys, you're from Pennsylvania?
I'm from Western New York, and Mike's from
I'm from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
we ended up that little small town north of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
As we graduated with 300 people from that college, so it's a pretty small school.
Wow. Yeah. That is small. That's pretty cool. I was telling these guys that my first concert was at Conneaut Lake Park. It was Cheap Trick when I was like 10 years old. So, because I read and I'm like, Allegheny, I know that's Pennsylvania, typically. I'm like, there could be an Allegheny, Iowa or something like that. And I looked, I'm like, no way, Conneaut Lake Park. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what brought you guys out to Arizona then?
After college, we basically went different directions. He went into the Marines as an officer. I was doing pharmaceutical research in grad school in the Midwest, and then a friend convinced me at the time to go to brewing school in Chicago.
Okay.
We kind of had always talked about it being, hey, we should always open a brewery, and it was always this long-term vision and drunk talk a lot of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of good ideas come from that.
Yeah. And I ended up, over emails, we were talking and said, okay, let's really do this.
Yeah.
So I committed to go to brew school. And then I graduated from there, worked for a little brew pub in upstate New York for about 2 years. And then at that point, I got a call from the guys at Four Peaks.
Oh, really?
This is about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And they offered me a position to come out here. They were growing from a 20-barrel system to a 40.
Okay.
8th Street was the only location. So I met with them actually in Chicago. I had never been to Arizona before.
Okay.
To me, I was just envisioned desert and cactus, and I'd flown over on the way to California, but I was like, okay, yeah, this is really cool. The guys were great, so flew out here to actually meet them and see the place, and it was kind of an instantaneous click with the area. His sister was living out here in Chandler at the time, so I actually stayed with her when I was out visiting these guys.
Nice.
And I ended up taking the job. I was there for 3 years, kind of while they grew pretty significantly, and then I ended up leaving. He ended up getting out of the Marines and moving to Arizona.
Okay.
Right at the same time. I think it was the last year I was here.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of crossing paths, I realized that within about probably 2 years in the Marines, like I either wanted to do 20 years or 4 years, and I didn't want to do anywhere in between.
Okay.
So kind of recognized that the 4-year mark was going to be my time to get out. And all right, so as we're just, Skyping over like conversation, because I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, what's the next step that we need to do? I thought about maybe going to Siebel or something like that, and he was like, look, I have the brewing side. We need the business side. We need that. So I was living with another Marine of mine. He went to Arizona State undergrad. Okay. So I heard all the stories of Arizona State undergrad while I was in Japan.
How academic it is.
Yeah, exactly.
No partying at all.
And it just sounded like a really good fit. My sister was living out here, and their grad school, their MBA program's top 25. I think it's top 20 now. Yeah. But so it was a very well respected school. So kind of everything led me to apply there. Did my interview over Skype and it went well. So it was a really good scenario. And actually, kind of going back, my sister who lives out here, she's very forward thinking. Okay. And so she knew that if Dustin took the job at Four Peaks, that I would most likely move out here. And so what she did is he was in Western New York, very small town.
Okay.
She gave him the treat, like Old Town Scottsdale, Mill Avenue, and for, I think you were 24, 25 at the time or something like that, to be transported into that, just the craziness and awesomeness that is that area, right. As opposed to,
I think we got off the plane and we went right to the salsa festival.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, what?
That was your first experience?
Yeah. And I'm like, what is happening? It's
and you
sunny.
said March?
It was March. It might have been February, actually.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it just was it was snowing when I left, and I landed, and it was 85 degrees, and I was like, is this always like this?
Yeah. So she helped kind of lay that path to really make Arizona be everything that, it's not just desert, that sort of thing, all the fun things. So kind of helped. I think he would have taken the job regardless, but it doesn't hurt when you're getting shown all the really cool parts of town. So.
And after starting, once I started here with them, I just fell in love with the state too. I took every opportunity. They always joked around with me because a lot of those guys that, are born and raised in Arizona, but I took every opportunity every weekend. I was always on the motorcycle or hiking, and I explored every corner of this state. Yeah. And, it was just how diverse it is what's so beautiful about it. So it was immediate. I was just blown away. Every time I would go northeast or north or even down like south and southeast, it's just you hit all these different, landscapes, and it's just all in the same state and all within a couple hours. So that was just one of those things where it's like, how can you not love a state that's just so, full of diversity? And you have all these opportunities to be outside. And then I always remember initially the thought of what I considered the desert landscape to be ugly, I guess. And then, learning more about it, the more that I hiked it, the more that I learned about it, because you just got that passion to want to learn about it. And then I remember learning that the saguaros, and it takes them 75 years before they sprout that first arm. And from that point on, I think they're the most beautiful part of the desert. You see them everywhere, and it's like this plant has figured out how to thrive in this harsh environment that is so cool. And my vision of Arizona has never been the same since. It's just this is such a beautiful state, even down here in the desert, because they're surviving in the harshest place. Right. There's a real beauty in that. So
That's a good point. Yeah, because I love them too. They're huge.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my, like you look at them from far away and you're like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Then you get up close, you're like, holy shit.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. And so that was just kind of when we kind of fell in love with the state. I ended up going back to New York.
Okay.
Took a job. I was the brewmaster for Southern Tier.
Okay.
For about it was supposed to be like a 2-year thing we were talking about, but eventually I was there for 4 years before we moved back to start this.
Yeah. And this whole time you guys had the mind. That was your plan. The whole
100%.
Time.
So
okay.
I mean, when I got out of the Marines and went to get my MBA, that was 100% to open a brewery. So I mean, day one orientation. That's what I announced that I was going to do. That's why I was here. So I was purposely taking classes for that. Even when I was taking classes that I had to take, I would always spin whatever they were teaching to like a small business in my mind, at least. Because they're talking, we're doing supply chain, we're talking Amazon level, how do you go global with, and I was like, I don't need that. Let me take like this tiny slither of information that can actually.
Hypothetically, if you were opening a brewery.
I did that all the time. We had guest speakers and, they'd have all this experience, but then I would tie it back into either brewing, small business, that sort of thing. So just always bringing it back to that.
Gotcha. Nice. So this particular place, like first of all, when did the name come up? Like when did you?
The name actually was initially a different name.
Okay.
So we were operating under a different name when we set everything up. We got a phone call as soon as I moved back to Arizona. I got a phone call from a guy in the industry who's no longer with us, but he said, "Hey, I see the name. It's a little too close." And we said, okay, let's talk about it over a beer. My sister did the logo for us, so we had this logo. We wanted it to essentially be like a city emblem because our whole kind of thought process is community.
Yeah.
So we want people to associate our logo with community or like a city feel.
Right. Yeah. Geographical connection. Yeah. Okay.
And so we had this with the barley stalks and the Phoenix and the view of the city skyline and South Mountain behind it and the name. And it's like, well, okay, we talked over beers with this guy who said, look, let's keep the name the same. For a legal standpoint, because all of our documentation up to that point was under that name, and it would have been a real hassle to change it. He said, that's fine as long as the forward-facing, just doing business as something else.
Okay.
So we had a beer over it. Everything was all good. But then we were tasked, because at that point, this was probably a couple months before we thought we were going to start construction.
Okay.
So it was like, oh, shit. How do we get a name that still fits this logo?
Yeah.
And, of course, every time that we came up with some name, we did the USPTO, the trademark search to make sure nothing else was like that. And every good idea we had was somehow tied to something else. And at that point, we're kind of gun shy about it.
Yeah.
So after like several glasses of bourbon one night,
you needed some
extra.
Yeah, I agree. You needed extra fuel. Like beer is not going to suffice for this.
Yeah, I think it was just enough to like get your own mind out of the way for a second, and then all of a sudden it was like Helio is Greek for sun.
Okay.
Basin is a valley.
Yeah.
So you combine the two, and it's Valley of the Sun.
Nice.
And it's completely made up. So then we were able to get the trademark for it. And we knew right away. I mean, Mike called it. He's like, we're always going to have to explain what that means.
100%.
Right.
Which makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah, because then they hear the story.
Yeah.
So that's where the name kind of came from, and it allowed us, to keep that same image. So
yeah, and it was unique because those two words have never been combined.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we got pretty sharp at for not being a professional on trademark like laws, and just because we're reading as much as we possibly can to try to learn about it, and it was like, hey, why don't we do this? Like, for instance, we had Helio Vallis as one of the, Vallis being Greek for valley. Okay. And it was like, oh, well, it's a different language, it's fine. Well, there's a Sun Valley in California. From everything that I've read and understood, you can't just change the language. It's still considered.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
At least that's everything that I read. Now, whether that's true or not, but we weren't about to like mess around and run forward with it and then get caught again. So we really wanted to choose something that was clear that there's no way we were going to have an issue with it.
Especially nowadays, there's so many breweries that are opening up, and I mean, it even just happened locally, with McFate. You know, that kind of stuff is unfortunate, but it does happen. And when you get a saturation point with breweries and everyone's trying to be creative with names, whether it's a beer name or the brewery name, you have to be careful.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I like the story, the connection. It's two languages, right?
Yep.
Well, Basin was what again?
Basin's just English for a valley.
Oh, yeah.
Valley.
It's like, what is that language? English. So the place, was this your original location you guys wanted to go with?
No.
No. He's like, yeah. Tamara's like, no.
No, there's a place over on 44th Street by Costco. It's
that is true.
Giant
That is-
Mechanics.
that
Giant
was-
Mechanics spot is like a prime location, but the EPA would have had to go and gut everything out.
That's why
before
it's
we
still
could
for
serve
lease
anything.
right now. So it was an old Sears. Yeah, it was an old Sears Auto Center. So they had the bays for doing all the
This?
all the work. No,
Oh,
I'm
the other
sorry,
place,
the
the
other
other place.
location.
Okay, yeah.
It's over on 44th Street in
Okay.
Thomas.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a standalone building between the plaza and the Costco, and
Okay.
tons of parking and garage doors and everything.
Yeah.
But we went and looked at it, and yeah, the EPA. I mean, they would have had to do a soil sample,
Oh, yeah.
and so that added cost and unknown was in there, and we're like, wow, we don't want to get caught up in that. And
Right.
it's literally still to date, nobody's touched it because of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's
I
just sitting there
heard it
vacant.
might have been
Yeah.
an old gas station, so they might even have gas tanks underneath the building. In
Yeah.
and of itself is just going to be a
You don't
no-go.
wanna mess with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's actually where they sell Christmas trees in the wintertime. You see that plaza? Some guy
yeah.
leases it out.
Okay.
He puts his RV there, and they sell Christmas trees.
Yeah. Okay. So this was location number 2?
Yeah. Well, when he first saw it, he
Yeah,
called me.
yeah, it was. So I had checked out probably about 20 or 25 different places. I met
Okay.
a realtor through actually my MBA program through like a networking event.
Okay.
And he was born and raised in the valley, so he knew the areas, had seen the ups and downs. He's been doing real estate, I think, since the 70s in Phoenix specifically. So we kind of went all over the valley, just checking out different areas, because the last thing we wanted to do was just focus in on one area and just ignore everything else. So we were
Right.
open to a lot of different areas, but we knew that we had the general gist that we needed high ceilings. We wanted to be more in a commercial area, not necessarily an industrial area.
Okay.
We wanted to do brew pubs, so
Yeah.
we needed to at least be somewhere close to where people live, not
Okay.
just, and also try not to have a million competition all around us, you know. So you just kind of build a map of where every brewery is, or like very similar beer bar is in the valley, and you start knocking out areas like, no, we don't want to be there, or, you know, we
So
don't want
many
to be
people
there.
already
And,
there.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we were open to a lot of areas, but yeah, when I found this place, or I didn't find it, my realtor found it. We walked around and I was like, man, this is ticking off every box. It just has a really good vibe. And I don't know if I FaceTimed you like right away, but I think we came back like the next day or two, and I was like, you got to fly out and check this place out, because
Well, he's leaving out one of the main points, a big part of that story.
Okay.
Because I was still in New York at the time.
Yeah.
And he calls me up, and he's on the phone with me while he must have been driving down this side of the street.
Yeah.
And this building, it was the old Clicks Billiards, it's been vacant for 8 years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, it was a little dilapidated, to say the least.
Yeah.
And as he's driving up, he's like, wait a minute, hold on. I think it was raining
Oh,
that day
yeah.
out here.
Okay, I
He's like,
noticed.
hold on. I'm like, on the phone. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, are you kidding me? He's like, oh, there's a bunch of transients that are just peeing all over the building. And they're, because the loading dock's covered, so they're all huddled up over there just.
Oh, like a
using it
group
as
of them?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
a group
'Cause it
urination?
was, yeah.
Things
Team
have not
building.
changed, believe it or not.
That's right.
So, like,
That's
that-
music character though, right?
Yeah, but like that's like what I'm hearing over the phone, and then like he's like, "Oh, you gotta check this out," and I don't know
Got
if
the
that
perfect
makes
place.
sense.
Did
Yeah,
you video
Yeah.
that?
I didn't.
you could
video.
probably get in trouble for videoing that.
Yeah, that was.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. I did. I skipped over that. I just blacked out that image. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
it was.
But that was kind of indicative of the area too, because part of the other thing too, when we're looking at locations, was we were open to a bunch of different areas. Like we looked at Gilbert and Chandler and Scottsdale and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think to a certain point, we wanted to be central Phoenix.
Definitely.
Because the more we kept looking, Phoenix has always been known for growing out, right?
Right.
And so it's kind of always getting this bad rap for losing its own identity,
Okay.
like Phoenix proper.
Yeah.
And so like that to us was more like challenge, and kind of it does have its own soul and it does have its own purpose. Like let's try to make that, and anchor it, and then where's two other breweries real close that have also decided to do the same thing with Wren House and Helton,
Right.
that are very close. So we're kind of all three trying to really, hey, Phoenix is a spot, like not just the valley,
Yeah.
like true Phoenix, the city of, is a good spot. And then you have Phoenix Ale down the road and Sun Up too. But
Yep.
we're trying to bring that, its own identity. So that was why Central Phoenix, and we're kind of on the edge of it. We're close to Scottsdale, close to downtown. We're right by Arcadia.
Yeah.
But then this area is, we see it as 2 to 3 years out. Everything is kind of trickling down. From Camelback has been kind of filled.
Yeah.
You see Indian School over the last 5 years is really kind of blown up.
Right.
And everything's starting to come residential-wise. Arcadia's sprawl is happening down to here. The old Baker Nursery that was, there for 40 years, that got bought out and leveled, and now there's 44 houses that are $800,000 plus, literally walking distance from here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so, it's coming, and it's not here yet. So we do get those issues still, and it's, when it's interesting when our like landmark is, the Peter Piper Pizza or the dollar store.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's interesting and.
Yeah, for sure.
But the building, the core of it had everything, like Mike's saying, that we needed. We were able to get the high ceilings for the brewing area.
Yeah.
It was a lot bigger space than we needed, but, the price was in the same, aspect. And so we were able to get a good thing. And obviously the garage doors weren't there too, so we were able to blow those out. That was a solid wall, kind of add a little bit of fresh air and light in here. And
yeah. I think no one ever really says, we have too much room, especially with the brewery.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I talked to Brian Helton, like his area is huge back there.
Oh, yeah.
But he's got this vision of like, here's what I want it to be. Yeah. I love this place because it's almost like 3 places in one, right? So you have the bar, you have the restaurant, and then where we're sitting is kind of tap roomish.
Yeah.
And it's got like you got the cornhole here, and you can see the brewing system, and I love the layout of it.
Yeah, it was one of those things that's, it's interesting. During the season, this would all fill up, and now we just switched this out to cornhole, so we took 10 tables out for the summertime.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And we do a lot of events down here.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, like you're saying, like it's almost 3 separate areas. So, last night there was not a bachelor party, rehearsal dinner.
Okay.
And so you're able to get this private feel, surrounded by the tanks, but you're still part of the pub.
Right.
You still get that aspect, so you feel a little, special and isolated. And so it's kind of fun to do that. And then you have the bar feel and the community feel to it. Yeah,
and I like the design of all the design stuff. And so my first trip here, I came in right when you guys opened, and I think Ian, is that Ian?
Oh, Ian.
Ian, is that it?
Yep.
Ian?
It's spelled Ian, and we give him a hard time about it, but it's Ian.
Ian, he came up with the Bermuda tagline, right? Yeah. So first time I came in, I order a beer, and I was like, "Hey, dude, where's your bathroom?" He's like, "It's right around there." He's like, "You're gonna love it." And I'm like, "What the hell?"
It sounded a little creepy, didn't it?
Yeah. There's even people sitting at the bar. They're like, "Hey, look, like what?" And I'm like, What's in there? Like, I'm good. I don't have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I'll hold it.
No, I didn't. Yeah, and I'm like, all right.
I'll use the loading dock like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I go, and you guys have kegs.
Yeah.
You cut out kegs for the urinals.
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen?
It was just it was our architect that we were working with at the time.
Okay.
We're not interior designers by any means.
Right.
So we kind of gave them some creative freedom, and we had a really good rapport with him. So he kind of helped with the layout. We gave him here's the basic stuff that we need. So he kind of took some liberties, and I think he had fun with it too, because he was so used to doing a lot of corporate chain stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're just kind of like, whatever, man. Go for it, and then pitch us stuff, and then we'll check it out. And the first rendition, we're like, oh, this is great. And then he's like, you guys, I got something. I don't know if you're going to like it, but check this out. And we're like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
I've never seen that before.
It's our most photographed thing in the brewery. It was our first Yelp picture.
Okay.
And I still, to this day, it's funny because we always see people come out of there and they immediately grab it, like, dude, you have to go to the bathroom.
Ladies are jealous we don't have anything.
Oh,
like
you don't,
that.
huh?
But it's funny because the other thing is our office is back there too.
Okay.
So always walking back and forth, we'll see a guy come out and grab his wife or his date or whatever.
Yeah.
And he'll check the bathroom, shuffle them in there, and they're like, oh, they take all these pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time, yeah. When we have tables, and we had Dustin's wife and mother-in-law came in. That was where the architect was able to provide a lot of good ideas from the start. But then I just like to sit and have a beer. I don't really necessarily think as much about what's around me. I just enjoy that scenario.
Yeah.
But having people come in with that eyes, so we grabbed his wife and mother-in-law, and we're like, here's your budget. Please make the woman's bathroom.
It was $12.
Yeah. We really splurged on that one. But we were like,
how creative can you get?
Yeah. We're like, because initially we didn't have anything in there, and people were like, seriously, like, the guy's bathroom's awesome, and you did nothing for the win. So they have tables now and some pictures and stuff. And yeah, it's still not. Yeah,
I think we need a couch in there so you can go take a nap.
Is that really why you want to take a nap in the bathroom?
Right. Of all the places, not back here.
Right.
Over here. Like the bathroom, that'd be nice.
Where nobody will look for me.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. Like, I want to go in there, but I can't. Like, legal, I'm not allowed to go in there.
Yeah, we had to have there was a bunch of those like little elements though. I mean, just all throughout, like Mike was saying, like we got a lot of comments and stuff when we opened. It was like, oh, the food's amazing, the beer is great, but it's just so boring in there. And to us, we're like, we spent so much time and effort and capital trying to get this, because it was vacant for 8 years. So wall-to-wall green, gross carpet, the old smoke eaters in the ceilings. We spent so much time and energy getting the inside done that, again, to us, we're like, it's clean and nice in here, and the beer and food are good. So, like, why would you complain about the walls? But we realized that people, you do need to have that element. So it was slowly adding. Like, we had whatever his name, Mr. Downtown Phoenix is his Instagram, but he's a local artist that did this mural for us.
Oh, gotcha.
He was awesome.
Yeah,
kind of worked with him on that, and because it's a huge wall, right?
Right.
And it was just blank for the first several months, and then we got connected with him. And he's done a lot of murals all over the valley, and he's based right down in downtown Phoenix, and super creative, awesome, easy to work with, and then it just fills this space up, and it says what we're about. My wife and mother-in-law built like the merch rack that's up there. The community wall that kind of showcases different people that we partner with. Like,
and Dustin built the tables. He's not talking about that.
The big community tables up top.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So built those.
And then there's a thing over there. I remember when I came, Eon was saying that he was saying, he's like, that's real beer in there in the vials. Like, what is that?
So my wife and then the architect Lane, who helped, they kind of did this top secret project without us knowing about it, right when we were opening up. So I was so busy back here trying to crank out beer, because the soft open, we opened with 2 beers on tap, and then it takes a long time to get all those beers on. So I was trying to stagger it out. So basically every day I was adding another beer.
Oh, gotcha.
So I was brewing around the clock plus the constructions, but she was sneaking in there, and like she would fill these little vials of the first. So inside of those vials is the first batch of every single one of those beers.
Nice.
And then they built the shadow box on there. There's the original floor plan layout, and then our press release is on there, the logo, all kind of wood burned in there. A picture of Mike and I when we signed a lease on the place, and then they presented it to us, I think the night, like a week after the opening.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool surprise, and just, I mean, looking back, it's funny seeing the picture, because it was probably like 3 months in, we got a picture like again, and you could just see, like I think Dustin lost about 20 pounds, I lost about 10 pounds leading up to the open, just because, I mean, nonstop working. I think it was like protein bars and pumpkin seeds is pretty much all we...
They stopped shaving.
We stopped shaving. We're clean cut in that photo. It's like a year before, so it's just, seeing that difference at that time, where it's just like, we were just pushing every second, just trying to get open and
versus
get moving.
Completely drained and just like, we made it.
That's great, because a lot of people have like their first dollar, and I think that's up there, right? You got the
it's actually a $2 bill.
Okay.
That they put in there kind of as a placeholder, because everything, again, we joke around. It was so frantic when we got open. We were just pushing stuff out that we don't even know where the first dollar is.
Yeah, right.
So that's just gonna.
It was. I remember it was a credit card. That was the first transaction was a credit card, and I was like,
makes sense.
I'm like, all right.
Frame the receipt.
It was one of those things. I was like, all right, I guess that's not happening, and I just moved on.
Yeah.
So it's a $2 bill in there.
Yeah.
But it's cool that it's more than that, because most people have that first dollar, right? And that's it. Like the beer vials, I think
that was such a cool idea. Yeah, it was really, and then they're backlit. So we went back to the office, and it was complete. They had all the lights off except for that was lit up.
Okay.
And it was really cool. And
nice.
We did like a little toast in there, and they spent a lot of time sneaking around getting it done, but to have the very first batch of each one of those forever in there, that's pretty cool.
You think one day you'll break them open and drink them? And you all want to.
They're like an emergency thing, so like if I'm like really stressed out, there's not a drop anywhere, I might be like, all right, I need this.
Refill it. like filling the whiskey or the vodka with water.
Oh man,
Nobody will know.
Right. So okay, you guys make beer. We're gonna get to that, but as much as I love beer, I love food. So Tamara, that's you are up. So you're kicking ass with this food.
Thank you.
Like, you won my wife. My wife, it's usually, I was telling Dustin that it's like, okay, hey, let's go to the brewery, have a couple beers. She's like, okay, cool, I'll drive, and then when we're done, let's go here and eat. And so when we came here, I'm like, we got to eat the food. She's like, okay. She was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you brought us her food out too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember you.
I
I'm
know,
sorry.
I know. I'm very memorable looking, yeah. But no, Eon, once again, he comes up. I wish he was here, actually.
I call him Yonald.
Yonald?
Yeah, that's awesome.
He very much hates that.
I'm going to call him that from now
Yeah,
on.
I think so. Yeah, that's sticking.
So he was our server, and like we ordered our food, and then you brought it out, and we didn't know you were you. Like we didn't know you were the chef. And he's like, you realize how special that was? I'm like, why? He's like, that was the chef. Like, no way. And then we ate the food. I'm like, tell her to come back out. Tell her to but you're kind of busy. So yeah, you are kicking ass with this food.
I'm having fun. They gave me a lot of creative ability. I'm used to a lot more boundaries. So
Okay.
I came into this knowing like how important it was what they were doing. And I guess craft beer, I really nerded out on it about 15 years ago. I really got into it hard and realized how interesting it was when you would eat it with food.
Mm-hmm.
Like it changed the entire experience, and I kind of wanted to bring that to everybody here and let them experience that too. Like you don't have to eat a cheeseburger with your beer. Like you can eat food that is going to change your experience completely.
Yeah.
And you should celebrate both rather than one or the other, or just food to sustain you and keep you drinking. Like it definitely should make you want to drink more.
Right.
But at the same time, you should remember the whole of your experience. So.
Right. Yeah.
We were trying to embrace that, and then also we were trying to bring more of like an Arizona culture to what we're doing here, because we feel like that's lacking everywhere.
Okay.
Most people don't understand what Arizona cuisine is, and that's really important to us to try to educate them, make it approachable, because most places where you can get it, it's just too expensive, too hard to get in, or whatever other reason. So we're trying to make it something that's comfortable, where they can drink and kind of get introduced to it, and change the culture around here a little bit. So
what do you mean by that? So what is it? Because I'd read something you said that you try to get ingredients that have been sleeping for generations, I think was the quote, right?
Well, some of them are. So we use a lot of indigenous ingredients. My favorites come from Ramona Farms. It's on the reservation. They grow beans, they grow different kinds of wheat, they grow corn, but some of them have disappeared for like, I think the beans almost went extinct until somebody started regrowing them, and it's something that it's found here. They're very hearty. They're absolutely delicious. We make a white bean puree. It tastes like cheddar. And then we pickle vegetables in it, and there's just so many flavors going on, and I feel like it really says something about the culture here and the desert. There's so many edible things in the desert that people don't know about, and it's underutilized. Certainly you shouldn't go out in the desert and take everything. There's a 10% rule. You should take 10%, leave the rest to the environment, to animals. But it's something that people don't understand. You have things growing in your yard that you probably don't know is edible. And like, for instance, wolfberries are goji berries. It's a varietal of goji berries. You go spend $17 a pound or whatever it costs now, and most people have it growing in their yard.
Really?
Or somewhere in the desert.
Interesting.
There's different things that, even in the parking lots during spring, there's palo verde trees everywhere. Well, the flowers that grow on there, they're edible. And they make things beautiful. I like to make tortillas out of them. So,
really?
I mean, yeah.
Interesting.
Usually I use a spent grain from the beer for the tortillas, but I mean, everything else can be added. So there's a lot of stuff here you can't find anywhere else. And it's special, just like, you go to New Mexico, they have a cuisine. You go to California, you have a cuisine. You come to Arizona, like, you ask people what it is, and it's really hard to answer, and we want to try to change that. And at the same time, we want to kind of up the beer and food scene. Like, it shouldn't be something that's seen as bar food. It's
pub food, fried.
Exactly. Like the new buzz is Mexican cuisine. It shouldn't be thought of as cheap. Like, it's the time and the quality that goes into it. People should be paying more for it. Well, the same thing goes to like drinking beer and eating food. Like, it's something that a lot of time and energy and love goes into. Like, people should pay it a little bit more respect.
Yeah.
It's kind of like respect the ingredient. I know Dustin respects every ingredient he uses. We kind of do the same thing in the kitchen, and people can feel it when they're eating the food. Like, it's something that maybe that's why it gets so much attention. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It's like an unknown. You can't really quantify what it is, but you know it. There's this something to it.
Right. Yeah.
And then, kind of speaking to using like all these edible ingredients, we did a spring equinox beer dinner.
Yeah, I read about that. That was It's like a foraged kind of.
Yeah, foraged from the desert. 8 courses they put together. It was incredible. So
it was
we had
incredible. I had some ladies that helped me out. They're the Sustainable Sisterhood, something like that.
Okay.
But basically, they're trying to start a program where they pay people to let them forage from the plants they have growing in their yards.
Oh, really?
And then putting it on the market, because one of the reasons why it's hard for a lot of chefs to use the ingredients is because it's not available. You can't just get it from your purveyor. You have to take the time to go out and get it. It's hard to get in a high quantities, which is easy for us since we do limited special so we can use it. But restaurants that have to keep something on for months, it just doesn't make sense for them to use something that is going to go out of, like they won't be able to get supply for. So they're trying to change that and educate people, and it's really cool. They actually brought a lot of things to my attention I didn't know about. So I'm learning as I'm using, and it's a pretty cool thing.
Nice. And you guys have been recognized for a lot of things too. Like I saw, I don't know exactly what Devour is, but I know it's a big deal.
It's the most prestigious food
Yeah.
culinary event.
Yeah, I knew it was.
Arizona.
I knew it was big time, and you killed it there, right?
It was very unexpected.
Okay.
We went to Devour mostly to build up customer base. Like we felt like we are kind of hidden. People don't know about us, so we wanted to spread awareness. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
I did a smoked bison taquito. They brought the beer. I think we were the only place that had beer with the food.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And I think why the food got so much attention is because it was the quality. I mean, it was everything I made. I made the tortilla. The corn came from Ramona Farms, and it's flavorful. It tastes like peanut butter and popcorn. Like it's amazing flavors. That, and then the smoked bison, and then we used Three Sisters blend, which is corn, squash, and beans on the inside, and epazote cream, and it was just the marriage of that, and then we paired it with the beer, and just people who haven't experienced that kind of pairing, I think were a little wowed.
Yeah.
That they didn't realize that you can make flavors like change like that, and so the judges especially, I think they enjoyed that.
Something
Maybe we were
different,
bribing
something
them with
unique.
the beer, I don't know.
Right.
But it was really surprising. I didn't expect that, but it goes to show that, people don't know what they want. They want you to tell them what they want, and they want things that taste like home, even though they have no idea what that tastes like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Right.
Well, it's funny that, at taquito, we had taquitos on the children's menu too.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this funny thing. Like when you have good quality ingredients and the time and passion and energy put into it, and paired with a beer too, it was kind of mind-blowing to all these people. They kept coming back and they're like, this is hands down the best dish ever. And we even had a couple people that were like, it feels weird to say that a taquito is my favorite thing at Devour, but like people were calling it before the winner was announced.
And it definitely was not the prettiest dish there. It was not. But I mean, that's not what we were going for,
Yeah, and it was.
We were trying to show people our identity, and I feel like we did that, and people enjoyed that, and they were there to see what the Southwest tastes like. And
Right.
Southwest is such a broad term. Like usually you
Yeah.
don't think of Arizona when you think of the Southwest.
Yeah.
But we were trying to show people what that is, and I think we did exactly that.
Yeah,
So-
Saturday was the biggest day, and she won best of the day for Saturday.
I have best taste.
Best taste.
Excellence
Best
in
taste.
taste. And then I was in the dish pit washing dishes on Sunday when I got a phone call, and I had a few minutes to get back down there. I had no idea why.
Right.
I'm like, Mike, you need to drive me.
Yeah, she runs into the office and
We-
grabs me, and she's like, they just called me and told me I need to come down there. So, the logical assumption is that we won overall.
Yeah.
And we didn't even, because I drive a manual vehicle, we weren't even able to text Dustin to let him know because he wasn't in there at the time. And so he sends me a message. He's like, oh my gosh, like we won. And I was like, yeah, no kidding. Here's the pictures. He's like, why didn't you message me? I was like, we walked in and they were like, okay, we're like going to do the presentation in like the next
Were they
2
waiting?
minutes.
Were they waiting for you guys to get there? Or is it just
I think
that
it
perfect
just about
timing?
timed out perfectly.
We
Okay.
had time to
Okay.
go enjoy a few beers beforehand.
Kind of mellow out a little bit.
Yeah.
A few samples. It wasn't like we were putting down 3 pints.
I won't judge you.
I think
It was probably
Odell
like
gave
3
me a
pints, yeah.
case of beer.
That's
I was
actually
like, here's my award.
Yeah, Odell did give us a case of it. That's right.
We were watching my wife and I were watching it, streaming it live because we're like, oh, I wonder like who won. I feel like we had a really good showing on Saturday.
Yeah.
And the best in taste is like the top award for the day each day.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's got to be close, and so many people were streaming it that it kept refreshing.
Yeah.
And they were doing like a summary of stuff, and then it froze, and I was like, damn it.
Right.
And it froze. And then when it came back, they were talking about they said Helio Basin. I was like, are they just saying like the winner is still from yesterday?
Like a listing.
And I see Tammy, I'm like, she's wearing different clothes. What the hell? Yeah. And then I was like, oh shit, this is like we won best overall for the whole weekend.
You won it.
The top, you won it. Yeah, it was a distinction award for the
overall.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was crazy.
First brewery to ever win at Devour.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, we're trying to change that whole perception that you have to have bar food with beer.
Right.
One of the cool things we're doing now too, he just brewed a blue lined blonde.
Oh yeah.
He did it. It's a charity beer.
Yep.
So he brewed it with the police force.
For them to drink while they're on patrol.
Yeah, it helps. It makes it more efficient, I think. Yeah.
But it's really cool. He used blue agave in it, and I went and foraged a bunch of mulberries and then drowned them in tequila, and then we make shandies out of it. So it's really cool. It's another little thing we're doing between the kitchen and brewery, and it's fun.
It's a great like flavor because the mulberries are so sweet, and the tequila kind of balances that out. So you just really get this bright berry flavor.
Takes all the harshness away, but man.
Yeah, and then we do like an ounce and a half, and then top it up with the blue line, and it's just this really nice, refreshing summer beer. And when she says forage, she means she scrambled over a wall in the neighborhood and climbed the tree and shook it a bunch.
Yeah, right.
I didn't shake the tree.
I'm kidding.
The wind blew.
But
and
I
she
totally
caught it.
stained up my car.
So, and you guys have got, I read, Travel and Leisure named you guys like the number 13 local brewer in the U.S. What was the other one? Beer Advocate, right? One of the best. Yeah, so you guys are killing it all the way around.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was top 34 new breweries in the country, and there was almost 900 last year.
Okay.
So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We're definitely taken back. They just said, hey, send us some pictures. Or no, they said they were going to send down a photographer and videographer to do something. They didn't really tell us what it was for.
Right.
We're like, okay. So we did it, and then like we got the email like, here's the issue. And we're like, what the hell? Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
So,
right.
Because there's a lot of good breweries that opened up last year. And so it was definitely an honor to be included in that.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And so Tamara, too, you do MMA? Is that right?
Well, I've had to kind of pause for the past year because it's been so chaotic in here.
Okay.
But I have about 10 years Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
So
you kick these guys' asses, like.
No doubt.
I mean, I
we
try
get out of
to
line,
do it in a friendly way, but
Right.
But yeah, I've fought amateur Muay Thai and boxing. I've
nice.
fought a few matches jiu-jitsu, and I don't know, it's something I definitely can't wait to get back in jiu-jitsu. They actually sponsored a black belt.
Yeah.
And they're talking about maybe doing a Brujitsu event in the
right
in
over
the
there,
future,
maybe.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know, but jiu-jitsu guys really love beer.
Really?
Really love craft beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's one of those things. There's so many antioxidants in it, and it's kind of a muscle relaxer. It's really good to drink after training, and I always have. The only time I stop drinking beer is when I have to cut weight.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that, people love it, and it would be cool to do. I don't know. I've been training for a long time. I enjoy that organized violence.
Yeah. Right. So. Yeah. Well, there's something about, like, I've been an MMA fan for a long. My mom used to rent like the early ones, like Hoist Gracie and those
nice.
guys. Yeah. So
that's what my friends think Helio stands for, the Gracies.
Oh yeah, that's right. Is it spelled that same way? Oh, okay.
I didn't know that was spelled that way either. Actually, I just always knew the name. I was like, oh, is it?
Yeah. But MMA fighters are the most chill people too.
They
like
really are.
But
you get it all out. There's no reason to stress about anything in life when you're in there. You're humbled every day. Like, people beat you down to a point where you want to cry, but you're not going to. And you probably puke a few times, and it's like it's very difficult to do. So you get through that, and then the normal stresses you deal with really don't seem that bad.
Yeah.
Other people might be freaking out and don't know why you're not freaking out and yelling about stuff, but that has a lot to do with it. It's just, you learn how to tame that a lot. You've been through a lot worse.
Yeah.
So.
I did boxing for like 3 years. I didn't really fight. I did some sparring and stuff. So
we can put on some gloves right now, right?
We actually do have gloves on the loading dock.
Most of my training partners are
and
about
a bag.
your size.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, let's give me a few weeks. So I did boxing, and I got in like really good shape. Like, I'm a big guy. I'm like 280 right now. At that point, I got down about 250. So I told my trainer, there was a guy that I would spar with who did jiu-jitsu. I'm like, dude, I would love to learn jiu-jitsu. So we rolled for like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, and I projectile vomited. Like I was.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how much like training you have on your feet. Once you get down to the ground, like they will make you look like a little child.
Yeah.
They really
So
will.
much
And like a
different.
small little girl will make you look like a little child.
Right.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to do anything about it. It's
Yeah.
a mind game. That's one of the things why I love jiu-jitsu so much is, I mean, I've kind of stepped out of Muay Thai and boxing a little bit just because I've had a lot of concussions and
Okay.
I like to not have a lot more.
Right.
I still love it. I still want to train it. But jiu-jitsu is one of those things that you can train till you're really old. It's all about your brain. Like it's
Yeah.
your brain over brawn. And
Yeah.
it's just so interesting, and there's so much you can learn, and there's so many things that people don't even know about yet that they're discovering you can do in it. It's pretty cool. Same with the
Nice.
beer scene. Like there's
Yeah.
so much you can do still with that. I think that's one of the reasons why I love it so much too. It's interesting. It's complex.
Yeah.
Can't stand boring things that are repetitive. So
Yeah. Well, everything here is it's freestyle, right? Jiu-jitsu is like kind of thinking on your feet. Well, not on your feet, but you know.
yeah, you have to
like-
think several steps ahead.
Yeah.
And then for everybody's reaction, you still have to think several steps ahead of that too. So
Yeah.
it's a constant like struggle of thinking what's going to happen, what are you going to do next, what are you going to try next, depending on so many complex variables.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. And that's kind of the concept of the food and beer here too,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
We run into lots of roadblocks, and we figure out how to adjust to that, and
Submit them.
you know.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like the mulberries she brought up earlier, I mean, she just collected them to collect them.
Okay.
Like we had no idea what we were going to do with it. And
gotcha.
I feel like a lot of the times, from an outsider looking in the sense of the kitchen and from the brewing standpoint, I just see them just kind of talking things out. Like they have a broad stroke idea, or they have ingredients or whatever, and then it's like, how am I actually going to be able to utilize this, and then how am I going to pair this with the beer, how am I going to pair this with the food? It's a constant back and forth, and it's really cool to see like how that actually just goes on the fly. And actually that ties directly into the Scottsdale Culinary Festival that we won. And by we, I mean Tammy. The Scottsdale Culinary Fest that Tammy won.
This is not Devour. This is something different.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
So Scottsdale Culinary Festival is in, I think it's April, somewhere early April.
Okay.
And I believe it's probably the second biggest culinary festival in the state
Yeah.
of Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Again, thousands of people, 75 or 80 vendors. They do a competition. And we were set to do a different event. So we had a bunch of produce and different things, seafood and stuff like that we needed to, basically we were stuck with because it's not on a normal menu, and we had to utilize it. So
The
we
other
weren't-
event got canceled because of weather last minute.
Yeah.
And
So it was just, it was nobody's fault. It's just, we're stuck with this. We got to figure out how to utilize it. So this was 2 days before our culinary festival, and we weren't planning to do food at all because
Okay.
we had this event. And we asked, hey, can we reutilize this food in some way, shape, or form, at least just to like cover the cost of the food.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a competition. I didn't tell her because I didn't want her to get any sort of extra
kind.
stress about it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, look, like we have 48 hours. Like we just need to get something together and just get the money back.
We were kind of already asked to be in the beer garden because there's the main section and there was the beer garden, which was separate.
Okay.
And then they allowed us, like, hey, can we do food in there too? Because they had at one point asked us to do that. And so we're like,
We're the only ones that got to have food in the beer garden. I know
Yep.
there were some people not very happy about that too. But
Well, then we're gonna mess with you guys, though.
but it was, it was kind of funny, or not funny, but it almost was a seemingly disadvantage because we were, again, the only food in the beer garden. So, 85% of the people were actually in the main section.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was kind of like we were isolated food-wise to this
yeah,
beer
we didn't
garden.
get that much business back there. So
Really?
Because you had to pay
Yeah.
like an extra fee to get into
Oh,
the beer
gotcha.
garden. It
Okay.
was almost like a separate
there's
area.
a lot of people that weren't going in there. So, but anyway, so I last minute I made a Brazilian moqueca, which is a Brazilian fish stew. And it's very citrusy and coconutty, and it has all kinds of seafood in it, and
So good.
Peruvian potatoes and different vegetables and peppers, and it's just really light and refreshing. When you write Brazilian stew, people are like, I don't want to eat stew when it's hot, but they don't realize.
Yeah.
But it's just something that paired so perfectly with the IPA that I don't know. I think again maybe we bribed the judges with beer by making them drink beer with the food, but
Right.
but it's something that it brings out the flavors in a way that you wouldn't taste if you were just eating. Like, say you're famished and you're trying to eat food. Yeah, it tastes good, but you don't understand it. It's like, hate to bring up a kid's movie, but it's like Ratatouille, where the rat eats the cheese and all of a sudden fireworks go off. Like, that happens. It really does. When you taste things the way they're meant to be tasted, it's something that you can't do anything but stop and realize, like, how special it is. So, I mean, that happened. There was a lot of people that came back for seconds or thirds.
It was 95 degrees.
It was really hot.
And hot stew won
really
best
hot,
overall.
That's amazing.
But I mean, again, we weren't trying to win anything. It was basically, okay, let's not waste this product, and maybe at the same time we can reach out to some people and let them know where we're at and that we do this. Yeah. So that was the whole idea. And then when they came and told us, I had really nothing to say about it. I was so surprised. I was like, oh my gosh. It's really cool. It's a little different from our Arizona style, but I mean, I know a lot of Brazilians, so I love their food.
Oh yeah, it was so good.
Nice. I wish I had some.
But it's one of those things, I think maybe people get sick of eating the same things you can find around the city anywhere. Like, they want something different. You're at a culinary festival, so let's do something special that people aren't used to. Let's step it up a little bit. I mean, if anything, maybe it'll show everybody they need to maybe go back to their drawing boards and make something more unique that says something about Arizona. Like something signature that you have, and just step it up a little bit and bring some beer.
Well, you're setting the bar high, so
bring some beer with it. Every beer will be happy. 100% of the time.
Yes. Perfect segue. Thank you for that. I knew we were. So the beer, it's like I'm tasting all these beers. Every one of them are good. I like every single beer. You guys don't have any sours, I noticed, though.
We don't.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
Me too.
Yeah. So you're the beer guy, Dustin, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So you have a science background, right?
Yeah.
Like a pharmaceutical science.
Yep.
Right? So does that play into the way you approach?
It does, for sure. And like I have like OCD personality too, so I like everything. Like it probably drives other people crazy.
It does.
Yeah. But I just can't help it. That's why everything's so clean. Everything's like organized.
Super clean,
But for me, it was, leaving that science background to go into beer. Beer is a lot of science as well. It's microbiology, it's biochemistry, but it's happening right there.
Yeah.
And you get to drink it.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win, really. So it was a good way to not only transition, that aspect, which I really do love.
Yeah.
And then also there's this complete artistic element to it. That's how do you work with these raw materials, and you just have this like creative, freedom to really play around sensorially with different ingredients too.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect. So I get to combine both at the same time. And so, when I went to Siebel, it was like 11 years ago, 10, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And was able to get that classically trained background to really strengthen it. Because again, having that science background immediately, I wanted to kind of approach it the best way that I thought possible. And to me, that was it. Okay. And then I was able to kind of transition into a small brew pub. And then Four Peaks at the time was like the small to mid-range set brew pub and production. And then at Southern Tier was 100% production. Okay. So I've gotten to experience all three levels, and then got to basically pick which one I like the most, which is the brew pub.
And then the memory card went out. I know, total amateur move. Come on, dude. Like, honestly, memory card, that's like pretty basic stuff. Anyways, had a camera with me, switched them out. We continued on where we thought we left off, but there's a little bit of a chunk missing, so we kind of take off with Dustin telling us about their beers. Started off with their coffee stout that is made from my favorite kind of coffee, Yirgacheffe. So let's continue.
Yeah, that Koei again was just kind of a fun way to mess with people, the traditional coffee stouts being either super aromatic and not really a bunch of the coffee flavor, or just a bunch of coffee flavor and not the aroma. Okay. And so taking that Yirgacheffe bright bean that's very citrusy and lemony, that's how I kind of describe it, right, is bright and lemony, and to put it in a big 10% beer. And then there's some techniques I used on the hot side during the brewing process that make the body of the beer a little bit lighter too. Okay. So that's actually where we added the coffee beans. So we extracted the caffeine out, so there is caffeine in there. It also retains some of the aroma, but you get more on the finish. You get that all of a sudden bright, lemony, finish to this big 10% beer, and it just doesn't make it taste like 10%. And it's just making a little bit of a different play on a big style beer.
Yeah.
And then the same kind of thing with the throwback triple double.
Which is Tammy is drinking here, right?
Yeah,
You go by
my
Tammy?
favorite, yes.
I called you Tamara, but they called you Tammy.
Tamara is correct too.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Well,
I had a 50-50
some people
shot,
say
yeah.
Tamara or some other things, and I sometimes don't respond because I don't understand what they're talking about.
Oh,
Like
yes,
tomorrow?
yes,
Like
tomorrow.
today,
Yeah. So fancy.
So you're a fan of the throwback?
I'm a big time fan of it, mostly because I don't know if you recorded this before, but we called Dustin the sleeper
Yeah.
because yeah,
I didn't know
it
that
doesn't
until
taste like it's
recently.
as strong as it is.
Yeah.
That's a very known thing. We tell everybody that.
The
Yeah,
I
sleeper.
mean, you can, if you're my size, you can drink about 3 glasses of that and be drunk. So
Oh,
Of
yeah.
and not know.
the throwback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sneaks up.
Yeah,
sneaks up on you.
9%. It doesn't drink like it, but yeah, I like to make beers that are really nice and balanced and clean. And when you can do that, you don't always get that alcohol perception. So,
Yeah.
and there's definitely some techniques I use in that one too to brighten it up and just make it smooth and clean and easy to drink.
Yeah.
But then, the throwback triple double being 3 hops that are old school and a double IPA, and again as a reference to Dumb and Dumber, you can't triple stamp a double
Yeah.
stamp. And
I contributed to Ice Cube.
that is true. That actually is true.
To what?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. Oh,
Today was a good day.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. That was a good. Yeah. That's a classic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, for like this, so that beer, everyone's so focused on these new hop varietals that are coming out, and it almost seems like more is more, and everyone's
Yeah.
jamming more hops in there. And again, that's like, to me, that's really inefficient and kind of like a reference to how you treat the food with like respect. It's not being respectful to what the plant is capable of, because there are so many subtle nuances there. And like, just because you're throwing more in it doesn't make it better. You're almost taking away from how delicate some of the characters are.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
kind of drives me nuts.
Right.
And so that was like the impetus to this one. It's like, everyone's going this direction. We're going to just say, have fun on that way. Like, we're going this way.
Yeah.
And a 9% big IPA that's filtered. And here's 3 hops that have been around since 1978 and 1982. These 3 old school classics that craft was kind of built on.
Okay.
And showcase what these 3 hops are really capable of. And to me, like, it's a nice, I say like lemongrass. Like, it's very floral and
Okay.
bright for a big 9% IPA. That's just how I describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was always kind of nervous, when we were about to release it, how people were going to respond to that hardcore different directionality.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool to see people come in and they're like, oh yeah, like we put what the 3 hops are, the big 3, and people are like, yes, it's so, I love these hops. It's nice to have this. This is a nice change of pace. So
Yeah.
it was definitely refreshing to, have that validation, I guess, of going somewhere different. So we're always
Yeah.
trying to just go somewhere different with everything, because so many trends are going one way, and it's just nice to be able to take a break in that action,
Yeah.
We're doing
Agree.
the session IPA is the next one that's going to come out
Okay.
June 8th, and that one's 4.9%, and we did use some New World hops, and
Okay.
that we used Vic Secret and Azaka in that one. So those
Yeah.
are more of the juicy varietals.
Yeah.
But again, we use about half the amount that most of the other brewers, in the country are using for these big beers, but we still are trying to retain that nice punch and aromatics.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's more technically complicated to try to get more aroma and more of these delicate flavors and aromas by using less,
Right. Yeah.
And it's more of a
Makes sense.
challenge, it's more
Yeah.
exciting as opposed to just, I'm going to dump 10 pounds per barrel and, you're definitely going to notice it versus how can I do 2 and get a very similar kind of flavor profile.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that because I've always been, well, not always, but since I started drinking craft beer out here in Arizona, I've loved IPAs.
Yeah.
But over the last probably year, I've kind of gone off IPAs. I've had a lot of not good ones.
Yeah.
I
and
feel the same way.
Yeah, right? Like I've had, like whether it's in bottles or even at some breweries, and there was a brewer that I talked to, and he said there's such a demand for it that people are trying to put them out like high production.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then quality is kind of falling by the side.
Absolutely.
So I had your IPA. I'm like, yes, okay, that's what I remember. That's what I like, So
It's funny because
thank
that's an old. You're welcome. Yeah, that's an old. We call it an old school East Coast IPA.
Okay.
It's balanced. It's 6.5%. Most IPAs now, again, kind of are still tailing off of that whatever ABV race that happened a number of years ago. So they're usually over 7% sometimes. This one's 6.5 on purpose, so you can have a couple of them and feel comfortable.
Right.
And again, it uses more old school hops. So it's more of, instead of this like juicy fruit character, it actually is more of a pine and grapefruit. And it just balanced. So like try to make it as balanced as possible, as opposed to being, West Coast tend to be a little bit more hop forward.
Right.
And English IPAs are a little bit more malty.
Okay.
This one is purposely designed to be this nice balance. So you get this nice pine, grapefruit, and then you get like a nice hint of caramel, and it just balances itself out.
Yeah.
All those styles are just kind of designed to be subtle and balanced. The core brands.
Yeah. I wish I would have saved it to drink it as you were describing.
We have more somewhere, I think.
We may have a glass hiding somewhere.
So, no, I think that's awesome, though, because just like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the Northeastern, like the juice bombs, as they call it,
I'm not
and
either.
sours. So I'm more old school like you. Of like, let's go with what was great, what was traditional.
Yeah.
That's cool that people are trying new stuff, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old. I'm almost 40, so like I'm like an old man now.
Yeah,
right? An old man attitude. Like, no, I like American IPA.
I'm the same way. It's just that, you know what you like, and you can appease to a good solid crowd, and again, there are subtleties in there. So our amber, we call it a hoppy amber, basically just to differentiate it, because Four Peaks did a great job with basically, building what people's perception of an amber is in Arizona with Kilt Lifter.
Okay.
But it's a Scottish style amber, so it's pretty malty.
Yeah.
And so we, obviously with respect to them, didn't want to go that direction. So we wanted to do an amber that's a little different. It's not overly hoppy by any means, but we put that on there just to kind of differentiate it. So, hey, this is an amber, but it's not Scottish. It's not malty.
Right.
And it's got these hints of grapefruit and toffee and stuff like that, but it's again very balanced. It's more, I guess, an American hoppy amber.
Yeah.
But that one going that different direction is, complex. There's a lot going on, but it's all kind of subtle. And it was interesting to see, that one before we got the license for wine. People that didn't drink beer that were here with their friends would either get the blackberry wheat, which is a really nice subtle fruit beer,
right,
or they would get that one because it was more complex.
Okay.
So it was really interesting to see, and then that one is starting to trend upward, but it takes a little while for people to recognize that.
Yeah. I like it. I like ambers. Like one of my favorite beers of all time is Lost Coast Alley Cat Amber.
Yeah.
I love that beer. So this is a great amber, and there's not a lot of places that make ambers. It's not a one that a lot of people make. Is that what I just said?
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, it's kind of one of those styles. It used to be, late 90s, early 2000s, you saw a lot of ambers out there, and then, they started to trail off, and everyone kind of went more towards the IPA route.
Right.
And pale ales were the same way. So, like, the idea to put a pale ale on our core lineup was this gamble that things are going to shift back. So initially, in the 80s and 90s, it was pale ales were the quintessential style. Sierra Nevada really put their stamp on that.
Right.
And then it shifted to IPAs, and then again, that search for what's new and the next big thing, it went to session IPAs.
Yeah.
Just purely because people needed something new to market, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a trend for the last couple of years, and people are kind of over that now too, and we're kind of like, all right,